audience first, and so that you can start the session.
Sure.
So yeah, so Phoebe, welcome to
I
the
have
FL.
my presentation. I just want to, so do I share screen?
Yeah. So after
Sorry, this is my first time on here. So do you mind just letting me, I have my presentation open.
okay,
Oh, okay. So cancel this. Um,
yeah, just select the share
should I,
button. So there will be an upward arrow button. So you just press that
sorry, where?
beside the mic.
Beside the mic. Yes. So I have the share screen
Yeah,
and then,
you just press that and
okay.
select the PPT that you have opened and share.
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to find
So
it.
so there will be a two options. One is entire screen option, right?
Yes, just 1 second. I have it here. It's just not, it's going through my whole thing, but it's not going through my PowerPoint.
No problem.
So I have it here. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to find it on my. Oh, PowerPoint. No, this is. I I have it downloaded, so I'm not sure how to get it. It's just letting me share. Oh,
So
I see it.
you have to open that firstly. So first
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
open
Okay,
that.
I see it now. Okay,
Yeah,
just one
and
second. I just did open system. Okay, it's opened. Entire screen. So I have to turn Google Chrome on. Okay, allow. Sorry, I'm okay. I opened the system, but it's not letting me.
so our next speaker is Phoebe. So Phoebe is an internationally recognized education leader, principal of Philopater and Christian College in Canada, and leadership coach with the John Maxwell team, and advocate for the educational excellence. So, with extensive experience in school leadership, mentorship, and community engagement, she is dedicated to empowering students and educators. So, that was a wonderful bio, Phoebe. So, all the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna leave my presentation out. I'll if that's okay. I'll just start my talk. It's great to be here this morning. My and I could share my presentation later on. So today I'm about to share with you a topic that's very close to my heart, and it is a topic from called "From Potential to Purpose: Raising the Next Generation of Leaders." Uh, a question that I've always asked myself over the years. I've been in educational leadership and, and education in general for over 21 years. When does leadership actually begin, and how does it begin? Does it begin when you become a president? Does it begin when you become a principal of a school? Does it begin when you are taken and becoming a coach of a team? When does it actually, and how does it actually begin? Or does it begin much earlier? I want to take you into my office a few years back. The story I'm about to share, I took permission from my student to share this. Over the past 20 years, like I've said, I've dealt with thousands of students, and every family that comes through the school, majority of them come to my office, and I will ask them the same question, the kids the same question. Tell me about yourself. This family came in with a young boy and a young girl about 3.5, 4 years ago, and simple question, tell me who you are. And they had Julina and Joseph, and Joseph was quite shy. So usually this question will either bring out in the kids the most they want to share, or they will be kind of showing off to tell me, that they're going to be the next astronaut or next doctor, showing off to the principal. Except Joseph was very quiet. I tried time and time again to kind of poke at the question, didn't get much. So I didn't want him to be uncomfortable. He seemed to be a polite, pleasant boy. And years went on. About 2 years later, we went on a humanitarian trip. We always go on these humanitarian trips every year as a school. And Joseph and his sister came with us that year. We were in an area in Upper Egypt, and the job for those kids that day was to take families or young kids, walk through a big tent where they had set up all kinds of Christmas clothing and toys and gifts, and help those kids pick those gifts. Joseph walked in with his group of kids, and he stood there, and I saw him, and I went up to him and I said, Joseph, why don't you go help someone? And I grabbed one of the kids walking by and said, come here, what's your name? He said, Muhammad. I said, Muhammad, Joseph will help you. And all of a sudden, Joseph, who was standing there very shy, took Muhammad and started walking through the room, the tent, and started working with him. And Muhammad became another 10 other kids, and Joseph just didn't stop. But Joseph was still quiet. Because the next day I even told mom, I said, I don't know if he's happy or not, but he's doing what he's asked to do. It wasn't until 2 days before grad when Joseph stopped me in the hallway. And you see, I know we all remember these notes. Remember when we used to pass these notes as kids in a class and get hope, pray to God that we don't get caught? Well, Joseph stopped me in the hallway. And by the way, I do have permission from Joseph to share this with you. And he gave me this note and he said, Mrs. Wasfi, I want you to read this. This is for you. I'm going to share it with you because when we talk about potential and when we talk about influence as leaders, we need to know where it comes from and how it comes from. He said, Hi, Mrs. Wasfi. When I first came into your office, you asked me to tell you about myself. I froze because I didn't know exactly who I was. Now I can answer it. I am Joseph Gobriel. I'm a PCC graduate. I'm a Coptic Christian. I'm a swimmer. I love learning biology and learning about the human body. And soon enough, I will be a doctor. In my time here, my grade gave you endless trouble. But despite that, you made amazing events, were patient with us, and showed us on multiple occasions that you care. I pray the best for you and for the school. And this note, handwritten by Joseph, made me realize that purpose is there and potential is there. We as leader need to actually remember as we are dealing with this next generation. You see, nothing has changed with Joseph. He's still that little young guy who's quiet. He didn't change much at all. But the potential had always been there. I saw it in the Upper Egypt tent when he took those kids. I saw it when I encouraged him. What changed was someone believed in him. Someone gave him a safe circle, as Simon Sinek says, giving that safe circle where potential is shown and purpose drives that potential. Leadership is not about creating potential, but leadership is about recognizing the potential that exists. You know, John Maxwell always talks about leadership is nothing but influence. It's true. But what kind of influence and how do we influence those around us? Influence is not measured by how many people follow you, but influence is measured by how many people are actually finding themselves and having a purpose and potential. Today, Joseph is preparing to leave and to go overseas to study medicine. He's still that little guy. He's still that quiet boy that was in my office. However, the difference is because I believed in him, today Joseph knows who he is. Because every person we meet today has what they are today and what they could be. And it's your job as a leader to discover that. It is our job as leaders to uncover who those people are. The problem is we always tend to gravitate towards those loud um, people, the people that seem to be doing everything outside, and we miss some of those quiet people. So, if leadership is about helping people move from potential to purpose, the next question is how? How does one actually develop those leaders? Leadership is something people are born with, or they are someone, all of us, I think, have the potential and it needs to be cultivated. It's a question that people argue with. Are leaders born or made? And today I want to take you to something else. Remember when we talked about Maxwell, and I said John Maxwell always talks about leadership as being influence. And sometimes when people are working with young students like myself, or young teenagers like myself, it's hard to pinpoint that potential. And there's always the excuse that our next generation is too young. They don't have it in them. We could come up with a million and one excuses. But over the past years, I have come to realize that if we as leaders care enough, and as Maxwell says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If we care enough, then we will know how to actually help those people. I will take you back in time with me. Um, During COVID, if you are from Canada like myself, Canada was shut quite well during COVID. And we were deprived of a lot of things that we usually did. And during that time, I was trying to run the school. And to be honest with you, running a K to 12 school during COVID, a private school where parents are paying tuition, you have to actually do a million times more than a public school. And at the same time, maintain and contain any damage that could happen. And at that time, as a leader, I was looking for creative, innovative ways to kind of take those kids out of that trauma called COVID 19. I think we all went through that trauma of COVID 19. And remember how the word care had to come up? Care was very important at that time. And so I was invited to attend a conference on Zoom. And that conference was actually about a United Nations sustainability project happening in Egypt. And this sustainability project called Decent Life, or Haya Karima, was something that began with a group of young people in 2018 in the World Youth Forum in Egypt. And they spoke in front of the president. And the plan was to rebuild the infrastructure of all the poor villages in Egypt to help raise the quality of life for over 54 million Egyptians living under the line of poverty. They rebuilt schools, they rebuilt homes, they created proper medical units in those villages. They created opportunities for economic growth. Instead of giving the person a farm, they would actually help them cultivate the farm and work with them and teach them and educate them. And so I attended a conference with two ministers, but it was happening in the States. And I love the US, but I'm an Egyptian Canadian. So whatever happens in the States stays in the States. Whatever happens in Canada stays in Canada. Biased a little bit, whatever you want to call it. Um, and so after attending, I felt very jealous because all these business people were talking about how they'll collect money and send medical supplies, and they'll help with this and help with that. And I thought, you know what? I have potential. I have young people who are down because of COVID, but they have passion and they care. And how could I use this? So I called one of the ministers who was in that meeting, and she's a personal friend. And I said to her, do I have your permission to bring that project into Canada and work with our high school students? And she said, sure. Brought 7 young people, ages 15 to 17. We had 3 weeks before Christmas break, and I spoke to them about the project. Now, if you know me, you know I'm very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about young people, and I'm very passionate about Egypt. So those three come together. You've got someone going on a rampage of care and passion and influence. So I brought those 7 young people, and I told them about the story. And I remember one of them looked at me and said, so I'm going to help the president of Egypt. I said, yeah, you'll work side by side with him. And those kids began, they they're 15 to 17-year-olds. They had no experience of raising funds. They had no experience of media platforms and informing what's happening around them. And before we know it, they had set a limit, like a goal, a target for themselves of $50,000. And within 2 weeks, they raised the $50,000. They created activities through the whole school. Every single child in the school was involved. Every single parent was passionate. They were making a difference. Although the whole world is locked up, we were still making a difference. That passion, that care, that belief, that purpose, that determination was there. And those are very core when you're dealing with the next generation of leaders. And after those 2 weeks, They were so excited, and I said to them, "You raised the 50,000." They said, I remember one of them looked at me and said, "That's not good enough." And I looked at him like, what's not good enough? We said 50,000. He said, "Miss, if we raise 80,000 in the next week, so 30,000 more, we would be giving them 1 million Egyptian pounds." And I said, "You guys think you can do it?" And they did. They did. They raised the $80,000, and they were the first group of kids that were able to take that money and send it overseas to make a difference. And if the year after, once COVID was done, we actually went to the village where they rebuilt the school, and they rebuilt, and the money was put to good use. Did anything change? Did those students suddenly grow up? No. Did they suddenly become, professional fundraising group? No. Did they become extraordinary talented and they had abilities above and beyond? No. They had the potential, and I will tell you, a lot of kids actually joined that group later on. However, those were the core. Those were the kids that actually had the passion. They were engaged. I believed in them. I knew that they could do it. And I got other teachers to believe in them. And they had, the sky was the limit. They believed in themselves, and they had the potential and the purpose and the determination. More often, we always look at kids and we say they're just kids. We forget that there's potential there. We forget that they can do it if they're given the right tools, the right people, the right situation. And what I mean by that is, a lot of us as adults, when we're working with the next generation, we always think about, the kids, and we once we give them responsibility, we let go. And that's when they fail. They always will need the guidance. They will always need, the proper way to do things. And so when there is potential and there's a purpose and there's a goal, those kids will make things happen as long as they have the proper tools and the proper guidance. Now, the beautiful thing about leadership is, when you believe in someone else, our belief often becomes a spark that ignites them, that makes them move forward, that makes them become someone different. Leadership, remember, it's about influence. And leadership about influence is very important, because as leaders, we can come into a meeting room, and we could be, the situation could be really tough, and we could bring that feeling of discouragement into the meeting room, and everyone shuts down. But then we could also come to the same meeting room, and as leaders with influence, we come in, and the situation is the same. However, we believe we can do this. We believe we can change this. We all watched the World Cup recently, and like I told you earlier on, I'm so passionate about education, leadership, kids, and Egypt. And for Egypt, I stayed up till late hours of the night, and stayed out in the sun and watched the games with friends in the city squares here. But there's always one thing I noticed, while the Egyptian team was playing, and that is their captain. And I'm sorry, Mo Salah. You see, this is actually a picture. I went to the Brazil Egypt friendly game. I got to take close up pictures of him, and a friend of mine got it autographed for me. It sits on my desk. Now, what makes this guy different? He's a leader. And let's go into the potential finds purpose part. And that's what happens when people discover themselves and discover their purpose. This team came in as the 29th team in the world, and you know what? Never made it past the first round. In fact, there was an Egyptian joke that went on for 36 years. We heard about was the one goal scored by an Egyptian soccer player. His name is Magdi Abdelghani, and that was the only goal ever scored by Egypt in the World Cup. However, something was different this year. You know, people come into a situation, and they need someone who will transfer confidence. And leadership is all about transferring that confidence. Once you find the potential, you give them the purpose, you have to give them the potential. Mohamed Salah was interviewed after one of the games, and he said, "If there's one player who could take a penalty in a match like this, it's me. I have the experience and I can carry the pressure for the rest of the team. I had to take it with confidence so that I could pass the confidence to my teammates. I read that quote multiple times and I realized that it was the confidence that this captain had that he passed on. What was interesting enough is after the soccer games were over and after the World Cup was over, a couple of things came out and that showed the real caliber of this man and his knowledge of leadership. Number one, when the FIFA listed the top players in the soccer in the World Cup games, we had I believe four Egyptian players on there, and Mohamed Salah came last of the four Egyptian players. He put others before them, before himself. He gave them the confidence so that they could play. Number two, that was actually very noticeable after the World Cup games were over, a lot of the interviews that happened, um, all the players said almost the same thing. Yes, we had great coaches. They understood us. They gave us the stamina, but it was Salah on the field and Salah in the change room who gave us that boost of confidence. As leaders, we have to give those people around us the confidence. We have to know how to boost that confidence into a reality, finding that purpose, giving them that potential. Joseph did not change overnight. My friend Joseph, 4 years ago, was still that quiet kid. The only thing that changed was someone believed in him. Someone believed in him enough without even making an effort. I did not talk to Joseph a lot. Maybe that tent when we were in Upper Egypt, I gave him that boost. But you know what? He found out who he was. He was Joseph. He was a swimmer. He loved biology. He was a Coptic Christian. He's a PCC graduate. He's going to be a doctor. And there was something else in that note that stood out to me. He said in it, at the very end, he said, in my time here, my grade gave endless trouble, but despite that, you made amazing events. Were patient with us and showed us on multiple occasions that you care. Leadership is about care. Leadership is about influence. Leadership is about inspiring others and passing on the courage. Days are going to come where it's going to be hard. You're going to have the tough task of finding that potential in those 15 to 17-year-olds. By the way, those kids were recognized by the Egyptian government. They were recognized by the Ontario government, and here in Canada, they are. I'm proud to say, some of them are now. They just got into med school. Some of them are in law school. Some of them graduated from international business, and the stories go on. The success goes on. They were the kids that we saw potential in them. I believed in them. Mohamed Salah on the field, that team didn't change much. They barely made it last time. This time, they had confidence. They had a leader that believed in them. And whether we like it or not, FIFA is, the World Cup is done, but we watched so many lessons come out of that. Today, I'm challenging each one of you to think about your leadership role. You could be a parent, you could be a teacher, you could be a school principal, you could be a CEO, you could be a community leader, or you could just be someone, an adult who cares. Make sure that your leadership is one of influence. Thank you so much. I see a lot of questions, so I'm going to wrap up so I could take as many questions as I can with this group because I'm just seeing tons of questions come up, and I'd like to answer all the questions. Thank you for listening, and I really enjoyed this talk with you this morning.
Yeah, Phoebe.
Hi, John. I see a lot of questions, so I wrapped up because I'd like to take
Hello.
as many questions as possible. If you can help me pick a few, and I'd love to answer.
Yes, so that was a wonderful session. So there are a lot of questions in the chat box.
I know that's why I wrapped up.
Yeah, so I will pick the best one out. So it is from Isabel Lay. So what role do parents and families play in shaping a young person's leadership mindset?
Okay, it's great question, Isabel. I think I'm a parent of two young adults. They're not little anymore, but I think a lot of times right now, as parents, I find that some of the parenting skills right now go into doing things for the kids instead of the kids discovering themselves. Um, Remember how when your child was learning how to walk, you held their hand and then let go of them. It's As parents, we need to do the same. Find what your kids are passionate about, help them develop their skills. Once they know and they feel like you are believing in them, parents sometimes don't transfer that. Remember that question I said at the beginning when I said that some people come into my office and I ask, what, tell me about yourself. A lot of parents will answer for the kids. I had a parent who came in one time and I said to them, I was asking the child, so what do you want to be? And she said, a doctor. I said, great. I'm asking your child, what do you want to be? A doctor, an orthopedic surgeon like his father. Now, years later, that kid became a doctor, but he's internal medicine, not an orthopedic surgeon. So, as parents, I think discovering what your kids are strong in, giving them the opportunity, letting them go of their hands while standing there and helping them shape themselves, giving them the courage to try new things. All these things form who they are. Sometimes we are so narrow-minded that we don't give them the opportunity or the potential or the purpose to grow. I hope that answers your question. Okay, I'm ready for my next one.
So I hope Isabella received your answer. And there is another question from Carolina. So how can we encourage young people to lead with empathy, integrity, and emotional intelligence?
Remember that story I said about the young people that raised the money? I think passing on the passion, having a goal, letting them. I find a lot of our humanitarian trips overseas that we take the kids in. They really change them. Now you don't need to go overseas. I mean, our all our countries now have the here in Toronto, I know a group of young people who go downtown Toronto for homeless services and things like that, um, opening their eyes. I remember on one of the trips, I had a very nice girl with me. Her name was Maria, and she was quite spoiled. And it wasn't until we went to visit a home, and she met a girl exactly her age. Her father was on a wheelchair. This girl was studying with no electricity in the house, and her dream was to become an architect. And Maria came out of that house and looked at me and said, "Miss, if I ever complain again." Sometimes putting them in a situation like this, and you don't need to go overseas to do that, like I said, or giving them real life projects that they could work and believe in. I think right now the kids are so much behind the screen that they can't discern what's real and what's not real. And we've given them so much that taking them out of that and putting them in real situations helps them have that integrity, have that empathy, have that emotional intelligence, knowing what's right from what's wrong. It's very important to have that balance, and to teach it in the proper way. And I think I have time for one more question, John.
Yeah. So it is from Arjun Kapoor. So what are the most important qualities that the next generation of leaders need to develop?
Integrity. Integrity is one of the biggest things I'm finding is not it's hard to have these days because everything's become gray. And if our leaders, our young leaders, are encouraged to have that integrity in small ways. It could be, with chat on, chat GPT, the fingertips, like AI, all that stuff, not properly teaching them how to use these things, drawing the proper line. I always tell the teachers when we were growing up, the World Web was just coming up. Yes, I'm that old. It was still dial up in my house a long time ago. And our teachers, I'm sure, were scared, but they gave us the guidelines and we worked with it. Integrity is the core of proper leadership. And so if there's one thing I would encourage everyone to impose and push and help the kids come up on is integrity.
Yeah, Phoebe. So thanks for all answering the questions. And there are a lot of questions still pending. So we'll be sharing
Uh,
all the questions to your email. You can answer them directly there. And
exactly. John, if those questions could be sent to me, I will
yes,
answer
yes,
all of
sure.
them. It would be perfect. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It was really a pleasure being with everyone this morning.
Thank you. So thanks for your presence, and we had a valuable time with your speech. And please be
Thank
the
you.
backstage and join the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.